everybody. So, thank you for staying so late. I know it's already 6:30 here in Berlin, and I'm happy to see many of you here. So I'm going to talk today about the future which we can already see, basically by looking at the right places in the world. One of them actually being the Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area, which you can see actually here on this picture with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. So the future is already here. It's just not equally distributed. Was actually said by a Canadian-American writer, and I actually believe this is actually true. And by looking at the Silicon Valley, for example, where the digital lifestyle revolution has started and has taken over the world, basically all of us, our lives, and how we interact, how we communicate, how we socialize. I want to give you a brief introduction about the Silicon Valley for those of you which haven't been there, which have not had the experience yet actually to either work there or be there at least for visiting. Then to look at what kind of trends actually were born there and what actual trends are driving especially us now also from the mobility side for Daimler, for Mercedes-Benz, and all actually other automotive OEMs. Now, looking at the Silicon Valley, just a few topics here. This is a geographical region where the Silicon Valley is, in the Bay Area. If you haven't been there yet, I can just welcome you. I'm there now since 3.5 years. I live in the Silicon Valley, work in Palo Alto, live in Redwood City, basically between the airport and work, about 20 minutes each way. And it's just a wonderful place to work, to live, and you will actually see why. One of the reasons being actually the weather. I mean, you might think it's funny actually to even mention the weather, but it's actually true. If you look at the comparison here between Frankfurt and Palo Alto and the average basically over the year, also for precipitation, it actually has an influence, and there have been studies actually been done about this, been made about this, that it has an influence on the creativity, on basically how people live and work and act. And of course, with beautiful sceneries nearby with Carmel, 17 miles drive, Monterey, Napa and Sonoma Valley, Lake Tahoe, it's all very close by. So actually the lifestyle being lived there in the area is also actually having a positive influence on people. Now, looking actually at the people which live and work there, as you can see, IT employment patterns, venture capital, huge spikes in the Silicon Valley, also compared basically to the rest of the world. Immigration has a big impact, a positive one actually. As you can see here in the meantime, more than 30% of startups basically being built up by immigrants. And you have people like me, Germans, basically living in the Silicon Valley, working there, driving innovation. And actually a lot is about innovation, as you will see in the next few minutes. And what's also a driving factor and a success factor, I would even say, is the density and the close proximity, actually, of the companies, of the universities, Stanford, Berkeley, of the whole, basically, environment with the legal and administrative support, which startups need, with the venture capital companies, basically, here on Sand Hill Road. It's all very close by, and our headquarters of Mercedes-Benz Research and Development North America, which I'm heading, is actually there in the heart of it all, just a few minutes actually also from Facebook, from Apple, from Google, all the companies we are working with. Now looking at the digital revolution roots and digital lifestyle revolution, as we call it, being born actually in the Silicon Valley. So you can see a few essentials here. On the one hand, actually people are very much willing to take risks. It's actually okay to make mistakes or have actually failures. Also in the startup community, as you all know, there are probably only like 1 out of 100, maybe 2 out of 100, being very successful and having successes like Facebook, like Twitter, and other companies, being purchased by Facebook, like recently happened for $1 billion. And that's one key aspect and the high value. And it's very easy, actually, to grow a business there. So if you're very creative, if you're open-minded, and you want to start something new, maybe start your own business if you don't have it yet, I can just invite you. I mean, the environment there is really very encouraging, and it's a great place to be, to live, and to work. And face-to-face networks actually play a very, very important role. Even though with all the social networking and digital communication and so on, still face-to-face communication and also this interaction of work and social and private actually drives trust, and trust actually drives relationships, also long-standing relationships, and it actually helps innovation in the Valley and how people actually work and invent. And as you can see here, in the meantime, actually, we do not produce any silicon anymore in the Silicon Valley. We still kept the name. We are in the meantime actually in the 5th innovation wave, as you can see. So the Silicon Valley has something, it has this ability basically to reinvent itself. And we're talking here on the reinvent track about the right topic. And as you can see, basically starting from defense, integrated circuit, personal computer, the internet, and now the social and the mobile internet being the actual wave of innovation in the Silicon Valley. Actually, the top websites, as you can see here, which are visited every day by all of us around the world, are actually headquartered in the Silicon Valley or nearby San Francisco. Now, talking about digital lifestyle trends started in the Silicon Valley, just a few to name here out of this recent innovation wave. Always on, simplicity, innovation acceleration, and social networking. And I will just go briefly and cover them. So on the one hand, always on, basically, it means on the one hand, as we all know, with our smartphones, with our mobile devices, we are always on, we are always connected. It actually has changed how we live, how we interact, and how streaming information basically is coming upon us, and we need to filter much more information. And it also creates some topics like urgency addiction. We want to be, basically always connected. We already feel very strange, if we are not online on the plane, or in other areas where we have no service, and so on. So we just get used to this. And as we can see, even in the smartphone world, OSs like iOS or like Android are the ones which are successful, and others, like Symbian and maybe even BlackBerry OS, which have not managed basically to cover this trend, even from the technology side, well, have some issues. Next. Simplicity. What this means is actually, complexity underneath, heavy technology underneath. But then you look at it from a user perspective, it's very simple. It's very easy to use. And I just wanted to basically, show here 2 examples, just by chance, being Apple products. The iPod and actually the very first iPhone from 2007, which really revolutionized the world in terms of, what a phone means to us, and being a smartphone, and that you actually do not even see the difference between apps which are connected and apps which just use onboard data. So this seamless integration and this easy to use and also aesthetic from a design perspective. Innovation acceleration being the next one. So it's really all about innovation speed in the Silicon Valley. So that's what's really driving the success of the companies, and those companies which really are able to reinvent themselves continuously and are able actually to continually accelerate their innovation. They are the ones which are really successful, and also with new disruptive business models. I mean, if you look at Google, also now with Larry Page having taken over again as a CEO, he really manages the company as a giant startup company and focuses on the right topics. The next and last, actually, is the social networking. So as you can see here, basically, global diverse networks, viral speed, bottom-up empowerment, live casting, very, very, big trends, actually big changes. And we have heard, actually, in some topics today, what actually has been driven by social media and how it helps all of us, actually, today around the world. Next topic, actually, I want to go into a little deeper. What does it mean for Mercedes-Benz? Why are we actually there? And actually, we have been the first company, first automotive company having an office there. We started our office back in 1995. And in the meantime, we have been there basically since then, have grown, actually significantly. We have, in the meantime, actually 2 offices since we grew out of the 1 location which we had. And we have about 130 engineers, designers, software and hardware engineers working closely together and creating innovation for our cars, of course, and for the different brands like Mercedes-Benz, AMG, Smart, and so on. And we're also collaborating with other OEMs, for example, on topics like Car-to-X, and car-to-car communication, creating standards for the future. And it's not all about competition, actually, and it's also about collaboration. So one example, actually, my command, which we have introduced to the world in 2008, it was actually born as a skunkworks project. And actually, many of the innovations and even inventions from the Silicon Valley start like that. They start as a small skunkworks project. And it was this idea of actually building a whole infotainment system for the car completely built on the cloud. Built completely on cloud content, cloud infrastructure. Even the software, basically, running on this system is continuously updated each time you start it up. And based on this, actually, you will see later on, we have built the first product, which we launched last year in 2011, just 3 years later. In 2010, we introduced Smart Drive, which is actually the first true automotive app on a smartphone. It was on an iPhone. We introduced this for Smart, with a cradle, and you were able actually to have a complete infotainment solution on a smartphone and touch the screen, actually, the multi-touch screen of the device with media, phone, navigation, and assist. And you can try it out for free from the iOS store for some time. And then, of course, because of navigation and so on, there is some fee to be paid if you want to continue to use all the features. In 2011, we introduced AMG Performance Media, and those of you which might happen to drive an SLS AMG, you can actually get this. It's an Android-based system. It's actually the first Android-based automotive solution by an automotive OEM, especially a premium OEM. And we have been not just the first, actually, to integrate Android as an operating system for an infotainment solution and also performance solution with different performance apps, actually, to support your racing and G-meter and other features, but actually fully connected to support Google Maps in the car. And this is also driven from the Silicon Valley, actually, by cooperating closely with companies like Google. We have announced a strategic partnership, actually, with Google in January of this year, working closely with them, actually, to bring their innovation into our cars where it makes sense. Also, internet radio like Aupio here from Berlin, as you all know, and other apps. And we offer actually an open platform, an SDK. We call it Drive Mode. And actually, any Android developer who has an app running on Android, which makes sense to be used while driving, could basically change their app to make it workable even in the car while driving on this Android platform. Very innovative, and I am sure this would not have been possible, within Daimler, within basically the company, without this office there in the Silicon Valley, being there at the pulse of this innovation, and also working closely with the companies nearby. Next is Command Online and our Mercedes-Benz apps, which we introduced last year in March. First with Google Local Search, with sending routes and sending POIs to the car, and also weather We have added Facebook. We have added Google Street View and Panoramio in November. We are just adding now actually actually News, Morningstar Finance for stocks and so on, and Parking Finder. And we are just launching actually in the next few days our Mercedes-Benz apps shop, so that customers actually can download their apps or purchase additional apps which are not for free or not come included with this. And this was actually the product which we built based on this original idea of My Command in 2008. One other example, a digital DriveStyle app, which we just announced actually and debuted at the Geneva Auto Show. And this is actually a completely new approach, kind of built on the smart drive idea I showed before, to use actually the smartphone as an engine in the car for the infotainment solution in the car. And here we go a step further. We use the iPhone as an engine to actually drive the screen in the car and being completely remotely controllable from the rotary knob and the keys and so on around this in the car. And also, with this, actually, and having this approach of driving the screen from the smartphone, actually through a digital video interface, HDMI, we are able, to bring in completely new, user interface structures. Also, a very, very rich UI. As you can see here, we invested a lot, actually, in the UI in terms of having, these glossy tiles and having, mirroring on this glossy surface, and a new approach in the UI menu structure with media, social, and places. Of course, with Facebook, Twitter, and so on, and navigation integrated, but with a lot of connected apps and media, also getting your media out of your social streams and so on. Very rich feature set. Just a few more examples here, like these glass tiles, when doing an alphabetical search. So not just innovation on a macro level, but also innovation on a very, micro level when it comes to user interface design, user interface technologies. There's a lot of actually design and engineering work, being actually put into the development and the design of these technologies, and basically for the customer at the end of the day, it just needs to be, delightful, easy to use, and just a joy basically to use the system. And many of the little details we focus on, are not necessarily seen right away on the first glance. Now, the last topic I wanted to present here today is this DICE, a dynamic and intuitive control experience we showed at the Consumer Electronics Show in 2012, actually in January in Las Vegas. And just to give you a few examples, on the one hand, we included actually gesture control in the interior of a car. So basically, complete experience, without buttons, without hotkeys, without switches. You can just use your hand, and actually you don't have to, use certain gestures to actually control the system. It's like a touch screen, without touching the screen actually. And we used the whole front windshield, for augmented reality, which I will show on the next page here. As you can see, with a rich 4K display basically integrated in the windshield. And this will be possible in a few years from now, and with all the rich data from the cloud, with all this information basically from the information space around you, there's like tons of layers of information actually, which we could digitally use and overlay, in a professional manner where it makes sense, as you can see here with a few examples. And, thinking about, 2020 and down the road, you think about also autonomous driving, and even more, usability, of augmented reality or features like this being possible, without having the driver's distraction being an issue. And then, this approach of social media and places, we introduced it in this DICE prototype and new interior, and then actually continue to use it in the product, in the digital DriveStyle product, which we will launch actually in the new A-Class later this year. And also with, like a swarm intelligence and connecting basically your social data with an intelligent map underneath, and with many, many ideas actually to just create a new, rich experience while driving. and well integrated, and of course very easy to use. And here a short clip actually. Electronics show in Las Vegas this year. I hope you had a chance to stop by our booth and actually experience it. So very, very intuitive to use. So basically just reaching with your hands towards these, virtual soft keys and buttons, and grabbing things and pulling them down actually from the exterior, from the surroundings, and interacting with that data very easily. You can see actually, for those cars around you would share their information, can immediately identify them and add them to your address book, or follow them on Twitter when driving by an interesting restaurant, or listening into the music of a pub which you like just by driving by, or connecting maybe songs you like with a certain location, things like geocaching, of course, being possible. Joggers, which want to share their routes with you. And of course, car sharing as the car-to-go cars you see around the show here. And let me just finish with one slide here, and some information about things we are working on now and where we go next, actually beyond what I have presented before. Is, we are really thinking about a new generation of vehicles which are truly intelligent and truly digital companions, which learn your habits, which adapt to your choices, predict your moves, and interact with your social networks, and really create an experience which goes beyond what we all know today and experience today. So I hope you have some questions or some comments. We have a small Q&A session, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Sorry.
Just let me know when you are in the Silicon Valley. You can stop by our office.
Hi. I have a question. In the past, it always used to be that the car world and the electronics world was hard to synchronize. I mean, we used to use and have a new iPhone every year. We buy a new car 3 years, 7 years, something like that. And another point is, if the iPhone sometimes crashes and does not what we want, then that's okay. Maybe not nice, but okay. Whereas a car, we expect that it works really every time. So how do you synchronize those things?
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually. So we have two things. On the flexibility side, to actually be always up to date and to keep pace, basically, with the technology and with the innovation and so on, and to kind of couple and have a solution for the slow 5-6 year development cycle of a car, and the 6 to 12 month development cycle of these consumer electronics and apps and so on. For that, to solve that and bridge that gap, actually, we created two solutions. On the one hand, basically Mercedes-Benz apps, for example, running in the browser environment, having this flexible approach, and having the fully embedded systems, basically, which are fully proved and run through the 3 to 5 year development cycle, be open for apps which you can continuously download, update, upgrade, and so on, and add down the road without having to visit the dealership. That's the one solution, creating these fully embedded systems, being flexible and being open for these add-ons and new installations of apps and so on. On the other hand, we create as perfect integrations as we can of smartphones, and actually new solutions which are based on the smartphone. And to enable this way customers actually to bring in their latest technology and latest gadgets each year, basically, as they come out and use it in the car. And of course, in terms of stability, we put a lot of focus and a lot of automated and manual testing and so on to make sure that these embedded systems, work rock solid, as you're used to today. Of course, when you make or when you develop systems based on smartphones, there could be cases, just basically based on, the nature of smartphones that. You cannot completely rely on, compared to fully embedded systems. That is clear.
Hi, thanks again for the great speech. Just one question. You said that for the new A-Class, you're going to integrate the swarm intelligence technology. How soon do you think you're going to include the technology over all models?
Yeah, so this digital DriveStyle concept, actually, which I presented with social media and places and this rich UI, we will introduce it first in the A-Class, but actually it is planned to go across all, or most of the model lines, I should say. So we do a staggered launch, basically, then in the B and C and E-Class and other vehicles as well. So it is planned as a cross-car line solution. And by the way, if you haven't visited the Daimler booth with In der Bewegung zu Hause as a theme, please feel free to stop by, check it out. It's cool. Okay.
Hi. Actually, I am a bit disappointed by your talk. If you work in the Silicon Valley and you present products as disruptive, say as the iPhone or the iPod, like products that have completely made other products useless and have or obsolete and have defined new ways of living. I can't see that in your products. Like, if I put my iPhone in a car, I can do the same things without that your dice does without gloss. And if I ride by or if I drive by in a closed vehicle, if I drive by a bar which plays music in a closed vehicle. And I can hear the music from the bar in my vehicle, it seems a bit over the top, because if I walked, I could hear the music from the open door. So this seems like it's an awful lot of. Actually, it doesn't seem like that much of an effort to put like those electronic gadgets into a car that we know from 100 years. So I would like to I thought this is something from the lifestyle that I don't need in Europe, I think. So if I have this car and I can't find a parking lot when I hear that lovely music from the bar, it makes no sense. So I hope to hear a few moving ideas that maybe went away from the pure box in which I sit and have to steer. But I'm sure you have ideas. Maybe you could tell some of these.
It's a great comment, and I mean that's one of the reasons actually why we are here too. You know, it's overall about mobility. So cars, you know, is one form of mobility, and you know everybody can choose. Do you want the car or not? You know, do you want a small car, a large car, a convertible, or you know, a coupe or whatever? And in that regards, I mean, we created solutions like Car2Go as one mobility concept, you know, as car sharing. We're working on other new mobility concepts. So in general, I think as a company, and also, you know, for me in the Silicon Valley with our team there, you know, we fully support, you know, to come up with very disruptive and new ideas for mobility, and then also for, you know, the car, as long as it's with us, as long as it's there and we all like it, or some of us at least, you know, to create solutions like, in my opinion, if you look at the dice, and you know, maybe it was just a very short clip, and you know, we didn't talk too, you know, deeply about, you know, all of its, in my opinion, pretty disruptive, you know, innovation and ideas with augmented reality, with gesture control, you know, with you know, the intelligence, you know, I talked about as the last point. You know, with having, you know, basically context-aware technologies, you know, with bringing in, you know, more personalized and more adaptive, you know, user interfaces that basically the car or whatever you have in terms of, you know, of your devices is already a step ahead of you, you know, and can give you the right recommendations and make even predictions of, you know, what's maybe your next move, maybe based on calendar data, based on lots of data, you know, and based on your habits and what you're used to. So in my opinion, there are actually a lot of, you know, big innovations and inventions in this area coming up, but there are a lot of small improvements too, you know, which, in my opinion, will make our life just much easier. I mean, if you look at the car itself, how many things you do not have to operate anymore. You know, like your wiper is going on when it's raining. You know, your light is going on when you go into a tunnel. You know, with Distronic Plus in our cars, you know, the car is braking for you, it's accelerating for you, it's doing many, many things. I mean, the next step will, of course, be, and it's going to be a giant step, is autonomous driving. You know, and there will be scenarios first where it's much easier, maybe on a highway and so on, with all cars driving in one direction and so on, before we do autonomous driving in a city or so, where it's much more complex with intersections, with you know, people crossing the streets and so on. But in my opinion, there's still a lot of innovation and inventions actually awaiting out there, either to be discovered or we are already working on, and you know, partially maybe not openly talking about it yet.
So, wenn es keine weiteren Fragen mehr gibt, würde ich sagen, vielen Dank, JJ. Nochmal einen großen Applaus für dich.
Dankeschön. Danke.